Hello, my name is Neelam Patel, and I am the OVW team lead for training and technical assistance. This pre-application recorded webinar is for the fiscal year 2021 Training and Technical Assistance Initiative solicitation. It is not the intent, nor is there sufficient time to go over every aspect of the solicitation. Therefore, this webinar will go over specific sections of the solicitation. All applicants are responsible for reviewing the solicitation in its entirety and follow the instructions for all due dates for the submission of your application. It will be useful for you to have a copy of the solicitation either printed or downloaded as you view this webinar, as I will be referring to specific sections of the solicitation and page numbers. Please know that during the course of the application process, OVW staff cannot provide any feedback pertaining to the quality of your application or provide feedback on proposed project deliverables. OVW staff is available throughout the open period to address any questions about the solicitation application requirements. Please feel free to send all questions to ovw.techassistance@usdoj.gov. The first item I will go over are the due dates. Application submissions in response to the solicitation will be done through a new two-step process. Applicants will submit the SF424 and the SFLLL in grants.gov and submit a full application in the new Just Grants system, referred to as Just Grants. Applicants must submit the SF424 and SFLLL in grants.gov no later than 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, May 27, 2021. Submit the SF424 and the SFLLL as early as possible, but not later than 24 to 48 hours before the grants.gov deadline. The full application package is due in Just Grants by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. You cannot submit a Just Grants application until your grants.gov submission is complete. So please do not wait until the last few days to submit your SF424 and SFLLL in grants.gov. Likewise, please do not wait until the last day or two to submit your application in Just Grants. There are additional dates that are important to note for the submission of your application. To submit an application, all applicants must obtain a Data Universal Number System number, also called DUNS number. They must also register online with the System for Award Management, also called SAM, and register with grants.gov. To ensure sufficient time to complete the registration process, applicants must obtain a DUNS number and register online with SAM and with grants.gov immediately, but no later than May 10, 2021. If your organization is already registered with SAM and with grants.gov, please double check your registration and make sure it is up to date. Lack of registration or not renewing your registration on SAM and grants.gov was the reason some past applicants were unable to submit their applications before the deadline. Failure to register in a timely manner or verify that your organization's registrations are active well before submission of the application are not situations of experiencing unforeseeable technical issues to request a late submission. Next, I will move on to the letter of intent. Information on the letter of intent is located on page 18 of the solicitation. Although not required, it is highly encouraged that applicants submit a letter of intent to ovw.techassistance@usdoj.gov by May 3rd, 2021. This will ensure that applicants are well positioned to successfully submit their applications by the deadline. Letters should state that the organization is registered and current with their SAM and grants.gov registration. Applicants should also list all the purpose areas their organization anticipates applying for. Include the number of the purpose area and the purpose area title. If your organization is applying for multiple purpose areas, you only need to submit one letter with all the purpose areas listed in the letter. This letter will not obligate potential applicants to submit an application. Applicants that did not submit a letter of intent are still eligible to apply. This slide provides general information and resources for submitting your application and for both the grants.gov and the Just Grants process. Minimally, you should watch the application submission training video and download the application submission job aid from Just Grants website to familiarize yourself with the new application process. Please plan your submission accordingly so you do not miss the due dates and time. The next few slides are for potential applicants that are not familiar with the OVW Training and Technical Assistance Initiative, which I will refer to as the TA initiative. The primary purpose of the OVW TA initiative is to provide direct training and TA to existing and potential grantees and subgrantees to enhance and support their efforts to implement projects supported by OVW grant funds. OVW's TA initiative is designed to build the national capacity of justice system professionals and victim service organizations to respond effectively and efficiently to domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. It is also to foster partnerships among organizations that have traditionally or not traditionally worked together to address violence against women. Please note that proposed activities must serve one or more of the OVW grant programs and eligible entities and individuals to receive OVW grant funds. Please visit the OVW website to learn more about the OVW grant programs and to determine which programs you propose as the target audiences for your project. OVW TA initiative is not intended for applicants seeking funding to attend a training or host a training or technical assistance event for their organization and community. For example, if you are looking specifically for funding to bring a training or TA provider to your organization, this is not allowable under this solicitation. Page 17 lists the eligible applicants for the grant program, also listed on the cover sheet of the solicitation. Please note that all applicants must have the capacity and expertise to provide training and technical assistance at the national level. We are now going to move to the purpose areas covered on pages 6 through 14. OVW has 3 distinct categories for training and technical assistance: targeted, competitive comprehensive, and non-competitive comprehensive. OVW will support the targeted and comprehensive purpose areas identified in the solicitation. Applicants requesting to develop targeted or comprehensive projects for issues other than those listed in the solicitation will be removed from consideration. Applications that modify or expand an OVW purpose area, including combining 2 or more purpose areas, will also be removed from consideration. To avoid confusion, OVW also requests that applicants applying for a targeted purpose area to refrain from using the word comprehensive in their project titles. Most of the purpose areas for fiscal year 2021 are targeted purpose areas. And as explained in the solicitation, targeted purpose areas are intended to provide in-depth TA and training on a narrow topic within 1 or more of the crime areas. As stated in the solicitation, OVW may make multiple awards for a targeted purpose area, or may determine not to make an award for a targeted purpose area if there are no applications that effectively address the purpose area, or if there are not sufficient funds to fully support the purpose area. Comprehensive purpose areas are projects that promote the consistent delivery of technical assistance training for certain grant programs, professions, and core critical areas. Comprehensives are competed every 5 years. Applications proposing a competitive comprehensive area not listed in the solicitation will be removed from consideration. OVW will make only 1 award for each competitive comprehensive purpose area, or OVW may determine not to make an award for a purpose area if there are no applications that effectively address the purpose area, or if there are not sufficient funds to fully support the purpose area. Current recipients of a comprehensive TA award that are eligible for non-competitive comprehensive funding in fiscal year 2021 to continue one of the non-competitive comprehensive projects listed in the solicitation on page 14 will be contacted directly by OVW. Applications for a non-competitive comprehensive purpose area that are not from the current OVW TA provider already funded for these non-competitive comprehensive purpose areas, which are listed in the solicitation, will be removed from consideration. Applicants that propose a purpose area other than those listed in the solicitation will be removed from consideration. Applicants must respond to the purpose area description content for which they are applying for, as stated for each purpose area. It is the responsibility of the applicant to list the purpose area for which they are applying in the data requested with application sheet, which I will cover later in this webinar. Please note that there is not a limit to how many purpose areas an organization can apply for. However, applicants must submit separate and distinct applications for each purpose area for which they would like to submit an application and clearly distinguish which purpose area they are applying for in each application and in the data requested with application sheet. OVW will not match submitted applications to the purpose area. If you're applying for multiple purpose areas and you mistakenly upload the wrong documents to the application, OVW will not match the right document to the right application. The project period and the amount of funds for each purpose area is listed in the solicitation, and we request you do not exceed this amount or project period. Finally, OVW cannot provide input regarding what you would like to propose for a purpose area. Page 14 states the OVW priority area. OVW is committed to advancing the Department of Justice priorities to promote civil rights, increase access to justice, support crime victims, protect the public from crime and evolving threats, and build trust between law enforcement and the community. These values are also inherent to the OVW grant programs and in OVW's TA initiative, as reflected through the purpose areas identified in the fiscal year 2021 TA initiative solicitation. OVW will prioritize applications that document how the proposed TA project will assist OVW grantees and potential grantees in addressing the needs of underserved and marginalized survivors, improving access to justice, enhancing survivor safety, holding offenders accountable, and or developing or enhancing coordinated community responses to violence against women. Out-of-scope activities are listed on page 15. Please review this carefully. An application that does not sufficiently address one of the enumerated purpose areas in the solicitation will be deemed as out of scope. Also, I do want to mention that one of the out-of-scope activities is that direct victim services, which is unallowable under the OVW TA initiative. Also, training technical assistance focused on a single state, region, or geographic community, unless specified in the purpose areas, is considered out of scope. Page 15 lists activities requiring prior approval. If you include any of these activities, such as surveys and in-person events, please make sure you clearly understand that you must seek OVW approval for these activities if you're funded for the purpose area. Page 16 explains the availability of funds and that funding is not guaranteed in the future, including for purpose areas, new and continuation purpose areas, and all awards are subject to the availability of appropriated funds. I will now move on to the award periods and amounts, which is listed for each competitive purpose area. I've already stated before, applicants should not exceed the amount stated for each of the purpose areas or exceed the project period. Applicants should also be realistic of how much funding will be needed to accomplish their proposed project for the purpose area. So for example, If the applicant determines that a project will need $400,000 to accomplish the project under a purpose area, and the cap of the purpose area is $500,000, then the applicant should really apply for the amount they need and not increase the amount to meet the $500,000 cap, even if they don't need the full amount. Non-competitive comprehensive applicants will be contacted directly by their program specialist to determine the amount of their application. All fiscal year 2021 TA initiative awards will be made as cooperative agreements, which will require an active participation with OVW in the development and implementation of the project. I'll now move on to types of applicants, which is explained on page 16. Continuation applicants have an existing or recently expired after June 2nd, 2020 award under the TA initiative for a purpose area included in the fiscal year 2021 TA initiative solicitation, for which they will be submitting a targeted competitive or non-competitive comprehensive application. Continuation funding is not guaranteed. New applicants are either 1, applicants that have never received funding under the TA initiative, 2, current and former recipients of a TA initiative award that proposes to address a purpose area included in the fiscal year 2021 TA initiative solicitation for which they have not previously received funding, or 3, former award recipients for the purpose area whose previous funding for that purpose area expired on or before June 2nd, 2020. I also want to mention that all current TA grantees with a substantial amount of funding remaining in a project for a purpose area they are seeking continuation funding and has enough funding remaining as of April 12, 2021, without adequate justification, may not be considered for funding or may receive a reduced award amount if selected for funding for that purpose area in fiscal year 2021. Page 16 and 17 list the mandatory program requirements for the TA initiative. The first one is to make sure your application's budget includes the amount required for attending OVW sponsored trainings, minimum of $7,500. This amount is to allow proposed project staff to attend OVW trainings for skill building and development. See the budget section for more information on the scoring criteria for this requirement. Second, all applicants must include a planning period for their proposed project. Please see the scoring criteria in the What Will Be Done section on addressing the project period and timeline. The proposed period of time for the planning of the project is the applicant's discretion, and it will be reviewed accordingly based on the activities that the applicant is proposing for the project. Third, funded projects may be asked to participate in an OVW sponsor assessment or program evaluation if applicable. As a reminder, applicants are limited to 1 application per purpose area. If an applicant submits multiple applications for the same purpose area, OVW will review the most recent system validated version submitted before the deadline. Applicants submitting applications for multiple purpose areas must apply separately for each purpose area and have different and distinct project titles. Moving on to the application requirements as stated on page 18. A complete application includes the project narrative, budget detail worksheet and narrative, data requested with application document, the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU for short, and 1 letter of support. Applications that do not include all the following documents will be deemed as incomplete and not considered for funding. Also, please follow the formatting and technical requirements as stated in the solicitation. Points may be deducted for applications that do not adhere to the formatting requirements. The formatting technical requirements are listed on page 18. For the application for federal assistance, known as FF424, please review page 18 on how to complete the SF424. Please note that the SF424 is generated when you begin the application process in grants.gov and must be submitted in grants.gov. The amount requested in the SF424 must match the budget submitted in Just Grants. Please note that match funds are not required for the solicitation. Additionally, on page 18 is information on submitting the disclosure for lobbying activities, the SFLLL in grants.gov. On page 19 is information on the standard applicant information, Just Grants 424, and general agency information. Applicants must complete this web-based form in Just Grants, which is pre-populated with the SF424 data that you submit in grants.gov. Applicants are required to submit a brief abstract of the project in the Just Grants text box. This abstract is not scored, but used throughout the review process. Please review the abstract section carefully on page 19. Please only submit the abstract in the text box. Do not attach a separate abstract in Just Grants. Applicants are highly encouraged to follow the template on page 19 on how to write the abstract in the text box in Just Grants. Please do not summarize past accomplishments in the abstract. So now to the project narrative section of the solicitation. The project narrative is worth a total of 65 points and consists of 3 sections. 1, the purpose of the proposal, which is worth 20 points. 2, what will be done, worth 30 points. And 3, who will implement, worth 15 points. Please note that applicants applying for a targeted purpose area are limited to 20 pages double spaced for the project narrative, and competitive comprehensive and non-competitive comprehensives are limited to 25 pages double spaced. For each section of the project narrative, applicants must respond to the criteria for each section, and projects should be responsive to the purpose area description and the specific target audience or audiences and/or grant programs identified in the purpose area, if applicable. Please do not include attachments that are not required for the application, and do not include photos or images in your project narrative. Also, please follow the font and spacing requirements if you're using a chart in your project narrative. For the what will be done section, you must provide a clear link between the proposed activities and the need that you identified in the purpose of the proposal section. One question we receive frequently is what types of delivery methods should an applicant propose in their project? The delivery methods applicants choose for the proposed project should be best suited for the goals and objectives stated in the application. As stated in the criteria in the what will be done section, applicants must explain why a particular delivery method is appropriate for the target audience or profession and for that proposed purpose area, as well as what is the applicant's and the project partner's experience with the proposed delivery methods. I also want to draw your attention to the criteria in the what will be done section regarding accessibility. All TA in training must be responsive to individuals with disabilities, individuals that are hard of hearing or deaf, or are limited English proficient. Finally, as stated previously in this presentation, a planning period is required in the project narrative. The timeline, which must be included in the what will be done section, must be included in the body of the project narrative and must not be attached as a separate attachment. Moving on to the budget, which is worth 15 points. And as stated previously, each purpose area has a budget cap and a project period. Please note that the budget is not part of the 20 to 25 pages for the project narrative. Please make sure you've carefully considered the resources needed to successfully implement the proposed project. As I explained earlier in the webinar, please determine how much funding you will need to successfully implement the proposed project, and if you don't need the full cap, then don't apply for the full cap. As a reminder, OVW has the discretion to make awards for greater or lesser amounts than requested and to negotiate the scope of the work and budget prior to the award. Keep in mind that the cost of the budget should correlate with what the applicant is proposing in the project narrative, and there must be a clear link in the budget and project narrative. For example, if your budget includes expenses for an in-person training, then the in-person training should be listed in the project narrative. Also, for staffing, if you listed a position in the budget, you should be discussing that position in the project narrative, and that the first time that position or individual is mentioned should not be in the budget. As I mentioned earlier in the webinar, there is a requirement for OVW training for TA providers. So keep that in mind that all applicants need to include funds to attend OVW-sponsored trainings and events. That funding is also to attend any required OVW meeting that a grantee is required to attend as a TA provider. This funding allocation is required for all applicants, even if you are located in the District of Columbia or in the greater DMV area. Additionally, please be mindful that all applicants must make their training and TA accessible, which may include translation of materials, the use of interpreters, captioning, etc. You must include those expenses in your budget, and it should be reasonable to what is being proposed in the application. Finally, please refer to the conference planning and expenditure limits in the solicitation if you are proposing any in-person meetings or trainings, and please review this section very carefully if you are allocating costs to these activities. Applicants must complete and submit the web-based form in Just Grants for budget worksheet and the budget narrative. It is highly encouraged that applicants also attach a budget worksheet and budget narrative in Just Grants. If you do attach a budget worksheet and budget narrative in Just Grants, please make sure the budget matches the web-based budget form you submitted in Just Grants. The next couple slides are going to focus on aspects of your application that relate to documents that our OVW financial team, the Grants Financial Management Division, GFMD for short, reviews. I will be presenting this information on behalf of GFMD. More specifically, we'll discuss some items that GFMD has identified from prior year applications that could help with expediting the review process. So for today, we're going to highlight certain aspects of the pre-award risk assessment and provide you with a link to a detailed webinar on how to develop the budget that will be included in your application. The first things we'll highlight are the items identified in the data requested with application sheet, which is completed by all applicants. Specifically, two items we would like to discuss are the single audit response and the IRS three-step safe harbor procedure. OVW requests that all applicants provide a statement as to whether they have expended $750,000 or more in federal funds during their last fiscal year. If they have, then they indicate that and also specify the end date of their last fiscal year. However, GFMD is finding that applicants do not always include this information and leave out whether or not they have met the threshold, or the end date of the last fiscal year is not included. Please ensure this question is answered in its entirety on the data requested with application sheet. So another item we'd like to highlight from the solicitation is specifically for nonprofit organizations. If you use the IRS three-step safe harbor procedure to determine your executive's compensation, you must reference the additional information section that provides the required disclosure letter. We'd like to highlight that there are 4 parts of this disclosure letter that must be provided to OVW in order to comply with this requirement. The sample letter that outlines all 4 parts of the disclosure. So please be sure to follow the sample and provide a response to each of the 4 pieces. The next item we'd like to discuss are the financial accounting practices, which assist GFMD during the pre-award risk assessment review for all applications. Each applicant must prepare a response to all 11 questions, and each question has multiple parts. We've noticed from prior years that applicants do not always fully answer all parts of the questions, which in turn requires GFMD to reach out to the applicant, which may delay recommendations. Some of the most common issues that we've encountered have been, for example, question number 2, where the applicant indicates they do indeed have internal policies, but they don't provide a brief list of topics covered in the policies and procedures. Another example of incomplete responses include question 3, where the applicant does not provide a brief summary of the organization's process for tracking expenditures, and more specifically, whether or not it tracks budget versus actual expenditures. So these are just a few examples, but basically, please make sure you read each piece of each question and provide a full and comprehensive response. The next slide will quickly highlight some resources that are available that should be used as you are creating the budget to be submitted with the application. Over the last year, GFMD has worked to develop a detailed webinar presentation on how to assist applicants in developing a budget to be submitted with their OVW applications. They want to help reduce any challenges you may face with the budget and make it clear what they look for when they review your budget. This webinar provides some insight as to what OVW financial staff considers during their review. Use the following link, www.justice.gov/OVW/resources-applicants for their information. This webinar can be found under the budget information section on this page. Next up is the uniform guidance, which can be found at 2 CFR 200. Then another resource is the DOJ financial guide, as well as the program-specific solicitation. If you need assistance finding these resources, please contact the GFMD help desk. We know this can be a lot of information to process, so if you have any questions about the GFMD information that we just discussed, please feel free to contact the GFMD help desk at 888-514-8556 or by email at ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov. Moving on to other documents to be submitted with your application, please review pages 22 to 24, as well as 25 to 26. This includes the non-supplanting letter and the indirect cost rate agreement, if applicable. Also, applicants must disclose all current and recent OVW awards as stated on page 26, which includes any current grant or cooperative agreement under any OVW grant program or an award that has been closed within the last 12 months from the date of the solicitation closes. Applicants must provide this information in a table using the sample format found on the OVW website. The link is provided in the solicitation. Applicants must also provide the same information regarding any current OVW awards, as well as any pending applications on which the applicant is a subrecipient. Additionally, applicants also must disclose all other federal grant programs for which the applicant currently receives funding or for which it has applied for funding in 2021 to do similar work. Applicants must provide this information in a table using the sample format found on the OVW website. Again, the link is provided in the solicitation. Both tables should be uploaded as attachments in Just Grants. Please note that this year, continuation applicants for a purpose area are not required to submit a status of current project. So please do not submit a status of current project as it will not be reviewed. I will now move to the data request with application, which for those of you that have applied for OVW funding in the past, this used to be called the summary data sheet. I already covered some items applicants will need to address in the data requested for application when I went over the OVW grant financial management information. The data request with application is not scored, but it is required. The data request with application information is on page 24 of the solicitation, and it is important that applicants review this section very carefully and include the information requested for this section. The data requested with application is very important as it lists important information about the applicant. Specifically, you should list the purpose area for the application in the summary in the data requested for application sheet. List the number and purpose area title. Applicants should also include the title of their proposed project, and we also request that you use simple and clear project titles. Also, please list all of your project partners and include the amount of funding that each partner will receive on the project. The data requested for application sheet is not included in the page limit for the project narrative. Moving on to the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU for short. It is explained on page 25 of the solicitation. The MOU is worth 15 points and is not part of the 20 to 25 pages of the project narrative. Please read this section very carefully and begin working on this section as soon as possible. OVW requires all potential technical system providers to enter into a collaborative relationship with an organization or organizations and/or key consultant or consultants who will bring the necessary substantive expertise to the project. MOU should connect the project narrative activities and the budget. Applicants should start developing their MOU as soon as possible because of the signatures involved. OVW requires all applicants to enter into an MOU, and key partners may also include organizations or individuals that have significant roles in the development and implementation of the project, regardless if they're receiving financial compensation for their partnership. Any partner that receives funds will be considered a key partner. Letters of support or letters of commitment from a partner or potential partner in lieu of signing an MOU will not be considered in place of an MOU. The MOU should be signed and dated during the course of the development of the MOU. It should be signed by the authorized representative for each proposed project, partner agency, or by the individual contractor or consultant. A question received in the past is, does an organization need to get signature of an outside accountant that they will be paying under consultants category that works on their organization's books? The answer is no. The accountant is not an MOU partner. Also, applicants must only submit one MOU with all the partner signatures. Please do not submit multiple MOUs for each partner. All partners must sign this one MOU. However, applicants may submit multiple signature pages. For example, if you have 8 partners, it might be very difficult to get all 8 signatures on one page. So you may want to have one signature per page, but make sure that all the names are listed on that page so everyone knows who's signing the MOU. Electronic signatures will be accepted, but make sure all electronic signatures are legible, especially if scanning or printing the signature pages. There is no page limit to the MOU, but we do recommend that you do not go excessive with the MOU pages and do not include information not requested in the solicitation. For example, in the past, we have seen MOUs with excessive lengths of 15 to 30 pages, which did not even include the signature pages, and the applicant still didn't respond to the criteria in the solicitation for MOUs. So please remember, respond to the criteria requested. The letter of support is worth 5 points. Only one letter of support is required, and if you submit multiple letters, only one of the letters will be reviewed and scored. And it will be up to the discretion of the OVW peer reviewers and OVW staff to determine which letter will be reviewed and scored. The letter of support must be from a previous recipient of the applicant's training and/or technical assistance. For an applicant that has never had an OVW TA award before, those applicants should include a letter of support from a recipient of any training or TA that they have provided in the past. Please make sure to provide the scoring criteria stated in the solicitation for the letter of support section to whomever you're going to have to write your letter of support. That organization or individual providing the letter of support must write the letter, not the applicant. Please note that applicants will not receive additional points for additional letters. I will now move on to the late submission request, which is explained on pages 28 to 29. As I stated before, you want to make sure you register well in advance and also upload your application as soon as possible and not so close to the due date and the due time, because you want to anticipate any technology issues with uploading your application. There are limited circumstances for requesting a late submission. Please read this section to fully understand the circumstances and the steps for requesting a late submission. Any applicant requesting a late submission must follow instructions listed in the solicitation, which includes requests due to severe weather or natural disaster and technical difficulties beyond the applicant's reasonable control. Missing the grants.gov deadline is not a technical issue for late submission. If you have technical issues to submit the application online, you may request to submit a hard copy All requests for hard copy submissions must be sent to OVW no later than May 28, 2021. Again, please note failure to begin the registration and application submission in sufficient time or having the correct version of Adobe Acrobat is not an acceptable reason for late submission. We have seen this many times where applicants in the past were not able to submit their application by the due date because they did not have the correct version of Adobe on the computer they were going to use to upload their application. As a reminder, to make sure you complete the steps required in grants.gov and that your application is successfully submitted in Just Grants, it is recommended that applicants begin the submission process at least 48 hours prior to the deadline, not later than 24 hours from the due dates. Again, as I explained earlier, you do not know what technical issues that might occur with uploading your application. This also gives you enough time to address any errors in uploading the application. Also, as I explained previously, if your organization is submitting applications for multiple purpose areas, please make sure the correct attachments are uploaded with each application. Make sure you are uploading the correct documents to the correct application by labeling them correctly for each application and for each of the documents you are uploading. In the past, we have seen applicants submit multiple applications for different purpose areas, and then they've uploaded the wrong attachments to each of the applications. For example, like they've uploaded the wrong MOU to the wrong application. OVW will not and cannot move incorrect documents to the correct application. So again, this is a reason why you want to make sure you upload well in advance so you can catch those errors prior to the close of solicitation. Also, do not combine applications when uploading in Just Grants. As a reminder, organizations can submit applications to multiple purpose areas. However, they must submit a separate application for each purpose area for which they are applying to, and only one application per purpose area. Also, do not submit a test application to see if grants.gov and Just Grants actually works. All applications submitted, even if incomplete, will be considered an application submission and will be reviewed accordingly. Finally, please avoid submitting an application multiple times. When submitting your application in Just Grants, you will either be entering specific components directly into Just Grants, such as the budget and the abstract, or you will be required to upload attached documents. As stated previously, all applicants must submit their budget in web form directly in Just Grants. However, we also highly recommend you upload the budget as well as an attachment. Because of the new two-step process of using both grants.gov and Just Grants, it is important that all applicants complete the grants.gov portion as soon as possible so that you have enough time to submit each component of the application in Just Grants. When submitting your application in Just Grants, applicants may save their progress in the system and revise the application as needed prior to hitting the submit button at the end of the application in Just Grants. Do not hit the submit button until you are done with your application and ready to submit the full application. The application submitter, the entity administrator, and the authorized representative will receive an email from Just Grants confirming the submission of the application. Please make sure that these individuals are continuously checking their email for confirmation of submission. OVW will not provide confirmation that applications were received. Final reminder is to read the solicitation thoroughly. This webinar was an overview of the solicitation, and we recommend that you clearly and carefully read the solicitation. Please also respond to the purpose area description for which you're applying for and address the scoring criteria for each section. Do not combine purpose areas and do not create your own purpose area. Double check all your attachments before uploading and label them accordingly. Do not submit multiple versions of the same application and start your uploading at least 48 hours from the due date and time. As a reminder, there are multiple due dates that you must keep in mind during the course of the application development and submission. The letter of intent is due no later than May 3rd, 2021. SAM, DUN, and grants.gov registration should be completed no later than May 10, 2021. Grants.gov deadline is no later than 11:59 p.m. on May 27, 2021. Please start the grants.gov submission as soon as possible. And finally, the Just Grants deadline is 11:59 p.m. on June 2nd, 2021. Applicants can begin the submission of their application in Just Grants once their submission in grants.gov is completed. So it's very important to complete the grants.gov submission as soon as possible to give your organization enough time to submit in Just Grants. With Just Grants being a new system to submit applications, please allow yourself ample amount of time to submit the application in case you encounter any technical issues. Finally, please contact Just Grants, grants.gov, the OVW Grant Financial Management Division, and the OVW Training and Technical Assistance Initiative if you have specific questions or issues pertaining to the solicitation and the submission of your application. For programmatic, please email ovw.techassistance@usdoj.gov or call our main line at 202-307-6026. For grants.gov issues, contact support@grants.gov or call 1-800-518-4726. For Just Grants, contact the ovw.justgrantsupport@usdoj.gov or call 1-866-655-4482. And for Grants Financial Management Division questions, contact ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov or call 1-888-514-8556. Thank you very much for listening to this recorded webinar for the fiscal year 2021 Training and Technical Assistance Initiative Solicitation.